Unbeknownst to Nana, I make it a very solid point in my preaching to not preach the same word twice unless I'm told otherwise.
There you go.
We were supposed to have some guests with us tonight, and they were unable to be here. And I feel the word that he had given me for this evening, it was a kind of a last minute cancellation. This gentleman's going through chemo and radiation, and he had a really good week last week. And I talked to him on last Sunday on my way to Zanesville, and he said, Jeremy said, I want to come to church with you. I said, that means more to me than you know. I said, I'd absolutely love to have you. He said, when do you preach again? I said, well, Sunday night I'm at Island Run. It'd be a great service for you to attend. And he said, I'll be there. Him and his sister. And as the week went on, I reached out to him today and I said, hey, how you doing? He said, my throat's really sore today. I'm not going to make it. I said, okay. And through the time that I've spent with this gentleman, I've seen him soften. I've seen him change. Although he always says that he don't know how I keep it calm. But like our relationship started through my old job, and we became good golf buddies, and we just became. He's 70 years old, 71 years old now. His birthday was September 10th, so he's 71 years old. And oftentimes he looks at me and calls me son, and I mean he means that much to me and myself to him. But he was supposed to be here tonight, and he ended up not being able to be here. And my prayers, I prayed for him all day, and I'll pray for him again in a little bit. It's just that his throat gets feeling better. It's not anything. I've never went through chemo, never went through radiation, but from what we look, you can see that it's not good. Um, this morning I talked over there, and I was at Beulah Hill, and we all go through things. We all go through struggles. We all go and we see people go through things, and we see things in hard times. And oftentimes, the human side of us wants to turn back and fix it. We want to fix it. We want to fix everybody else. We want to fix every situation, even if it's not our situation. I have an answer for it. That's 2024. Look around.
That's true.
Okay, everybody has an answer. But I read my Bible back in a time when the words were read, and it says, "Not my will, but your will be done."
Yeah.
If this cup can pass from me, but if not, not my will, your will be done. The Son of Christ, Jesus Christ Himself, uttered those words in a prayer that He was praying literally for His life. He was at the end. He said, "Not my will, but your will be done." We're at a time where a lot of people think things should go the right way, the wrong way. There's a lot of Bible scholars. There's a lot of preachers that don't agree on things. There's things about it that they don't agree on. How things are going to end up, how things are going to. A lot of it, people want to try to put their own prints on. I never want to be a non-objective. I don't want to be. It's this way or the highway. Because oftentimes God moves in different ways. All right. Listen, I'm stubborn in some areas. You come at me in those areas, I'm probably not going to listen. God knew that. God knew how to knock on this old boy's heart for him to open up. And we're going to read a little bit about that and how we got to just trust in the Lord. We got to go back and just trust. I went to 3 different churches in the last 3 weeks, and in being in every one of those churches, I'm not there all the time. I'm here more than I am anywhere else, but I'm not there all the time. So I try to get to know the congregation a little bit, get to know the fellowship just a little bit. I don't always know everything about them, but I know I want to know what I'm walking into. And last Sunday, I walked into an environment that I had never been. I'd never been in that church. I drove by that church. I didn't know anybody that went to that church. Walked in there, and there was a lot more people there that I knew that I didn't know went there. But we found that, and as I was there, I went back that Sunday evening. They do like a little Bible study with a little lesson. And I told them I wanted it to be kind of not formal, a little bit informal, where we could communicate back and forth. And I was talking to them, and I said, "What are some things that you think are roadblocks for people coming to Christ or people that walk with Christ? I said, what are some roadblocks for you?" Man, I'll tell you what, fired off. Just you could hear the word fear. Boom, boom, boom. Everybody brought up fear. We are fearful. Okay? I'm going to tell you a story about probably, me and Abby started dating in 2010. So we've been somewhere around probably the second, so probably our first full year together, I would talk to my father-in-law, and they have a bunch of land up a holler, and I said I'd like to hunt it. As I got older and the trust grew, he told me I could go up there and hunt. And he has this tree stand, and he had built a permanent tree stand in a tree that had 4 trees come up, and it has since rotted and fallen down. His hearing wasn't great, so it was really hard for him to hunt, which is something I really enjoy. But I hated it because it was something he enjoyed, but it was a hindrance. He couldn't hear at all, so he couldn't tell where they were coming from. So ever since then, I go up on that property and I look at those trees, and I've looked at them 1,000 times, and I've always said I'm going to build a permanent stand there because I thought it would be really cool to hunt out of the same tree that he used to hunt out of. And as he's passed away, we still have those memories. Those are something that we can hang on to. And this past Wednesday, we'll back up. And I remember right after Abby and I got married, Dale wasn't really concerned about our work. He wasn't really concerned about our school. He was concerned about those things. Okay, but if you ask him what he was concerned the most with was our relationship with Christ. He wanted to know every Sunday, did you go to church? Where were you at? What did you? And there was a period of time where we would just say, now we watched something. We try to find an answer that would quote unquote please him. But I know now that he read right through it. He knew that we weren't where we needed to be, but he continued to continually ask. At that moment, I wasn't on fire for God. That wasn't the top of my priority. That was a time where I was being a knucklehead and I was just kind of doing things my own way. We were just married. We were trying to figure things out, and we were going and we were doing our own thing. Listen, we were not where we needed to be. Okay? In that moment, I can't tell you that I was any more closer to God than somebody that had never met him. I was saved, but I was not giving him time of day. I was not living for his will. I was doing what Jeremy wanted to do. Okay? We look around now, and we've got people living the way that the world would have them live. They would live their life, and I'm going to reference this a lot. And one of these verses I'm about to read will touch on it. But we have a scale, all right? Picture a scale in your life. A lot of us right now have put a lot of weight. We put God above everything else, right? That's what we are designed to do. That's what we are called to do. That's what we're supposed to do. That's what He wants us to do. That's where we're going to find the blessings. That's where we're going to find the growth. That's where we're going to find the faith, the courage, all that being stretched is when we go all in for Him. And then the other side is the world, pleasing men, pleasing women, whatever, right? Oftentimes we get to where we raise up on this side over here. We're living for God, but little things start to happen. Job promotions might happen. Takes a little bit of time from God, and we start having to please people because my job requires it. Well, my buddies want to go on a vacation. They want to go to a dinner. All right, but maybe they're into the world. They've not converted yet. Whatever it may be, maybe they're not transformed. And you quickly realize you're starting to justify in your own will. The scale is tipping.
Absolutely.
And before you realize, you look at where you are, and you're nowhere near where you want to be, and you start filling it back up. That is the world we live in today. We are very, very much a person that is thrown by the wind. It tells us not to be, but we're a church. We're a people. We're not everybody, but we're kind of just navigating this thing we call life and going back and forth through it all. Okay, it's not that we are called. I'm going to read, but I'll finish the story about hunting before I forget. I went up, so I look at these trees, and Dale knew we weren't where we were supposed to be. I wish Dale was around now to see where our family is, to see not just the 2 additional grandkids, but to see what truly means in our house. To truly look, when you walk in our door, there's a difference about us now than there was back then. I want him to be able to see that, but he can't. He's not here anymore. He's already lived his life. He's put in the lessons. He's put in the time. The wisdom has been bestowed upon us to look at and say, I want to be like that. And the more that the Holy Spirit reveals to me, the more that I read, the more that I understand, the more I realize, that guy had it figured out.
Yeah.
He had a disability where he couldn't go to church in here. But there wasn't a Sunday, it wasn't on TV, him reading closed captions. It'd have been easy for him to pack it in and complain and say, well, I'm disabled. I can't do this. I can't do. He's lived his life. He farmed. like no other. He was a dad. He taught softballs like no other. He went to these sporting events. But above all else, he wanted you to know that he was of Christ. His purpose was to be a God-fearing father and husband to Teresa, and just that was what he wanted to be remembered for. That's what I'll remember him for, and his hard work. Okay, I went up there Wednesday, and I told Robert, I said, I got a tree. I want to put a tree stand in, and he said, okay. Old Jeremy would not have done any of what I'm about to do. And I've tried not to tell Abby, so I told Robert I would tell him myself at some point in the sermon because there's a lot of ignorance that's about to come out of my mouth that I look back on. That was a lot of just nonsense. Okay? So we get up there, and I put this plan together, and I had it all mapped out in my head. I was going to ratchet strap to the tree every little bit. That way, when I started cutting old ratchet straps, mind you, I told you that this is a tree that I really liked back when, but I couldn't ever get my ladder stand in that tree, so I found a tree a flat down. So this ladder stand has probably been up 12 years-ish, somewhere around there. No, not 12 years. Yeah, when was that? After we were married, so 2016, so 8 years, okay? Somewhere around the 8-year mark. But anyway, we put this tree up. We put the stand up in this tree, and it was a disaster the whole time we were putting it together. I should have had no business in this, but we did it. And there's also a word in this right here what I'm getting ready to tell you, okay? Because if I'm gonna make myself look goofy, I'm gonna throw Abby under the bus with me. We're up there, and it's getting late, and it's getting cold, and my fingers are going numb, okay? And we're trying to put these nuts on these bolts, and nothing is lining up. And I'm like, what in the world is going on? Read the instructions. Okay, Abby's reading the instructions. That was her job. She turned it to page 1. Little did I know that when Big Game put all these tree stands together, there was one manual for about 15 tree stands. Oh, yeah. So we're putting together a 2-man buddy stand that is on page 12. Abby's on page 1 telling us how to put together some other tree stand. So nothing's lining up. Everything's off. Anyway, we get it done, and we finally get it through up there, and it wasn't great. Anyway, we fast forward to 2020. All right, we go up there today, or Wednesday, and I told Robert I want to move it. He's got a lot of doubt in him. You should just see, like, he's probably the voice reason. I won't use doubt, but they're voice reason. And I'm like, I took my machete, and I'm like, all right, Robert, I'm going to go up there, and I'm going to hack these real quick, and I'm going to come back down real fast. And he's like, hey, I don't want to do this. I said, that's okay, I'll do it. So, used to, heights were not a big fan of me. Like, I'm not a big fan. So, when we're going on our way up the hill Wednesday, he's like, let's do all the other stuff in case something happens and we need to get off the hill quickly. We don't have to, all the other stuff is done. I'm like, that's a great plan. Okay, voice reason. Here we go. We got all the other feed, we got everything taken care of, and we get to this spot finally. Well, there was the last 2 spots. One, I wanted to tear down a blind that I've seen 6 wasp nests in that I, once again, didn't have a plan. It's daylight. They don't like it when people mess with their nest. So I take this can of wasp spray, and it's on a platform. So I'm 12 feet in elevated. The only thing that's there is a ladder here that I had to run down if I started getting stung, which not going to be well. So I get up there and I start spraying these wasps. The whole time, I never once uttered a word of doubt. I knew what we were doing was stupid. I knew that, but I did not say that. Okay. So as I was up there and I'm shooting these wasps and I'm zapping them as we're going, and I'm trying to tear this blind down and cut the ropes that are tied to the platform and as quick as possible because they're buzzing around me. All right, so we get that done. Not one bee sting. Not one bee sting. So I got down off of there, killed 6 wasp nests, and just threw the blind over the platform and left it lay for a little bit. Not one bee sting, 6 wasp nests taken. Come down. Everything's ready for us to put the new blind up later in the week. Good deal. So I get down out of there, and he's like, all right, let's go move this stand. I didn't think we'd move the stand. He didn't think we'd move the stand. Nobody thought the stand would be moved. But I go up, and I cut I get to the top, and this tree has grown around the platform of this ladder stand because it's been there so long. Right. So I get all the way up, and I'm trying to reach as far as I can, and I can't reach it. So I finally get up on the very top step, and I'm 20 feet in the air. It's a 20 feet, 22-foot stand. So I take the machete and I hack the first ratchet strap. I hack it and I just hold. I said, oh boy. So I'm like, okay. So then I come down to the second one and I hack it, and it doesn't move. And I'm like, All right, I'm feeling good about things. And I work my way down, and like I get to the ground, and I'm trying to pull it off the tree. Well, it's grown into the tree. So now we have to find another plant. Robert has a winch on his buggy. So now I've been ripping and tearing on this platform stand that now I have to go back and hook the winch to at the top of. No straps holding it. So as I go up through there and I get up there, I finally latch it on there. I get back down as quick as I could. Robert starts tugging and it falls down. Well, now that's probably the easy part when you're hanging a two-man ladder stand is taking one down. So we get it up to where we want to get it, and we look at these four trees, and Robert said, "Ain't none of them straight enough. I really want it in that. I want it in this tree. Like I don't care what has to happen. This thing's going in that tree." So Robert walks the area, and he's like, "This is a good tree, and that's a good tree." And I'm like, "Yeah, but it ain't that tree. It ain't that tree." So as we went along, finally I said, "That tree's where we're going." And we walked around, and it was a crooked tree. If you looked at it, it was the farthest fork away from me. It looked really crooked from this spot. But if you walked around, the tree was pretty straight. So we hung the stand. All that to say this. Old me wasn't prayed up. Old me didn't know that God would protect me in difficult times. Old me would have done it, but probably had a different result. I probably got lit up by law. All right. I would have probably fallen out of a tree stand that I had no business climbing with nothing holding it up there. Okay. A lot of things would have happened. But when you live your life and you pray and you stay in step with God, there's angels among us. We know that. We know that. And I can truly say on Wednesday there was angels around me because there was a lot of stupid that was done that I did not get hurt from. Okay? I can say that. But I'm going to read some verses and we'll get going here. But in Psalms 56, verse 1, Father, I come to you, Lord. I come to you tonight, Lord, with just a thankful heart, Father, for everybody that's here, Lord. It means so much to us as a family, Lord. It's great to come back, Lord. And I pray, Lord, for this message, Lord. I pray that it just continues to unite people right now, Lord, in a time where there's so much negative, there's so much people just blaming people. Lord, I pray right now, Lord, I pray that as a nation, as a community, as a church, we just continue to look to you, Father. If we all would just look to you, and in all situations, and not look at to please man, not to look around, not to just go but just to please you and be the city on the hill that you've called us to be, and let our light shine as bright as we possibly can by continuing to study, Lord, and be with you. Lord, I pray for that tonight. I pray for that over everybody here, anybody that watches online, Lord. I pray that they continue to just look at themselves and what you would have them do, Lord. Not what they would want to do, Lord, but what you would have them do. That they would listen to the calling that you put on their life, Lord. That they would reach out to the people you say to reach out to. Lord, that's what it's about. No matter how close we are to the end, Lord, I pray right now, Lord, that you just continue to stir up and inside everyone to just make a difference in somebody's life, Lord, that you would just use us in a mighty way, that you would use this fellowship in a mighty way, that you would use every road that we go down, up and down 53 and 47 to town, wherever our roads go, Lord. I pray that people can see a difference, that they can see that there is answers in you, because that's the only way that we're going to be able to navigate life in a path that you would have us set on, Lord. We cannot go here and there and over yonder and expect to see differences, Lord, but we have to be rooted in you and in just study your word and be able to go and tell the people about the good news, that there is better ways, there is better days coming. We just got to stay on the road. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen. Psalms 56. Be merciful unto me, O God. This is David talking here. People are coming after him, trying to kill him. Be merciful unto me, O God, for man would swallow me up. He fighting daily oppresseth me. Mine enemies would daily swallow me up, for they may be many that fight against me. O thou most high, what time I am afraid, I will trust in thee. In God I will praise his word. In God I have put my trust. I will not fear what flesh can do unto me. Every day they wrest my words. All their thoughts are against me for evil. Every day they twist my words. All their thoughts are against me for evil. Watch a news channel. JB said, Fox, you get a Democrat in here, they're going to send here and they're going to tell you how great CNN is. I don't care which one you watch, but I guarantee you what they're going to do is they're going to look at the other side and say, look what they said. Look what they're about. Look what they've done. Listen, we have got to be careful. We have got to be very, very careful on doing this. Okay? We were all, once upon a time, a babe. Agreed? Or we wouldn't be here. Okay, that's a simple answer. As we were grown, as we were taught one of two ways. You were taught of the world, or you were taught of God. We have a God in heaven that made you in an image, in his image. He looked at you at one point and said, that is beautiful. At one point, he looked at Donald Trump and said, you are beautiful. At one point, he looked at Kamala Harris and said, you are beautiful. At one point. Moving off of politics for now. You look at the news channels and it's everybody wants to tear down somebody else. Anymore, you ask somebody, what makes you more qualified? Well, I'm more qualified than them because X, Y, and Z. You didn't answer the question. You bashed somebody else. That's the world we live in. That's what they do. We constantly I can stand here and preach a message, but if somebody doesn't like me, they can cut this, start at this minute and cut this one. And I could say, God said, and then say something, and they could cut it out and say, Jeremy said this. He thinks he's God. Yeah. No, that is not what I said. But they can make it look that way. Right. They can twist your words. Right here it tells us, David says, they twist my words. Every way I say them, they twist it. David was a man after God's own heart. If they did it to David, they'll do it to you, Ramona, Carol, anybody in here, they'll do it to you. They gather themselves together. They hide themselves. They mark my steps when they wait for my soul. Shall they escape by iniquity? In thine anger cast down the people, O God. Thou tellest my wanderings, put down my tears in the bottle. Are they not in my book? Are they not in thy book? When I cry unto thee, then shall my enemies turn back. This I know, for God is for me. And God will I praise his word, and the Lord will I praise his word. We have got to praise his word. We have got to go back to where it started. Whenever we were a babe and he said, you are beautiful, we have got to remember that. The world is trying to get us to act outside of what God would have us do. Listen, my Bible tells me that Jesus washed Judas's feet. Anybody took silver on your behalf? Has anybody given you away? No, they haven't. Jesus shows us that we need to love those that are against us. Sometimes you even look at his disciples, they would get mad at him. When he went to meet the woman at the well, going on their way, they said, that's Samaria. He said, I know where it is. They don't like us there. He said, I know they don't like us there. And they understood that this is crazy. We all know that this is crazy. Yeah. It could cost us our life, but we're going to follow you. And away they went. Get a little crazier to be able to look at somebody and say, you're not married, or you don't live with your husband, but you got 5 husbands, and tell you everything about. Once again, crazy. You go walking up to somebody today and start bringing up their past. I wouldn't do that. Jesus could. Okay, he knew that. All right. But what did he do? He didn't go after her and say, smite you because you have had X, Y, and Z. He said, let me tell you something. Let me teach you a little bit. And he showed her love. He said, you don't come with them because they're going to come and talk about you. Why else would you be out here in the hottest part of the day carrying water? That ain't for me. All right? But he tells her this. And she goes back and she says, come and see a man that told me everything about me. That is different. That this guy is different. There's something about him. There's something about us that's different. There's something about us that needs to be different. That light on a hill. We've got to show people through love and what Jesus has done for me. That story I told you earlier wasn't just, it was a testimony that I'm A-okay, start off there, but B, that if it was an old me that had a different mentality, a different spiritual outlook on things, I'm probably getting lit up. But the whole time I'm climbing that ladder, I'm saying, God, help me. Don't let me fall. Please don't let me get hurt. This is ignorant, but don't let me get hurt. Please. And as I'm going up through there, and there's no fear, I'm not shaking, I'm not nervous. I mean, in the back of my mind, I'm like, this is not a good idea, but not once did fear or doubt enter my mind because God was with me. He cares about me. The people we walk inside and we don't agree with, the people that make your life harder than it needs to be, a neighbor that is really cranky, that makes everything, if you blow the grass on my side of the fence, we're going to throw down. Those people, God loves them too. Their choices may have led them down a path that you don't like, that He doesn't like, but He still would open His arms for them today. You watch Fox News, you watch CNN, and every time you're going to get a negative twist on something. A negative twist. The news, all right, we do need to know what's going on. I agree. We cannot live with our head in the sand, because then we are going to then be uninformed of what's going on. If you read your Bible, there is no way to twist this. It is white, black, and red. If you read it cover to cover, these things will not surprise you. What it doesn't give us is a game clock for me to know that, hey, we're getting really, really close. We could be getting close. But I guarantee you that there was probably a preacher in 1930s that said we're getting close. But believe me that we are closer today than we were in 1930. We are closer today. Are we at the end? That's not for us to know. What's for us to know is to live our life the way God would have us live our life. To love one another, to show people that there are a better way, to show people that the way to heaven is not by works. It is not by how great thou art. It's not by how wonderful you are or your neighbor. It's none of that, but it's by accepting Jesus Christ. The only way a fruit becomes ripe is by what? Exposure to the Son.
Yep.
Until we have met the Son of God, we were not perfect. We did not have a heart that was softened, a heart that was in a good spot. It took some exposure to the Son that went to the cross for us to understand grace and mercy. You've got a world that gets in your grill. Listen, there's people that I would just like to tell them to sit down and shut up.
Yeah.
Thank God He checks me. Because it's one of those things that whenever you get a non-believer starting to talk craziness about how God doesn't exist, I want to be like, here's X, Y, and Z, buddy. Look at it and just go and slap me with the Bible. But it doesn't work that way. Like, if I could have a conversation with Jesus, just sit down with me and Ramona right here, and I'd be like, how did you know that you, like, how did you stay? When did people talk about it? When they said that you said these things, and you knew that it was true, and they didn't. If somebody accuses us of something that we didn't do, what's the first thing we do? We run and find a lawyer, and we try to countersue, and we try to do this, and we try to do that to clear our name. He went and carried a cross for you and I that had nothing to do with Him, other than being the lamb that was sacrificed for us. That was it. And every step of the way, He tried to show us what He would have us do. He would show us that in 2024, that we would face decisions that have impacts. Do I agree with everything that goes on politically? No, I don't. Do I think there's issues? Absolutely, I do. But what I know is that ultimately, being a 29-year-old male in West Virginia, outside of praying, I can't do much. I can call to a God that will listen, a God that will answer. But guess what? Jeremy's will isn't the top of God's needs.
No, it's not.
Jeremy's needs are. He makes sure I'm okay.
Yep.
But my will needs to fall in line with His will. We're gonna flip over here to Proverbs 3 for a second. Verse 1 through 7. Proverbs 3, verse 1 through 7. My son, forget not my law, but let thine heart keep my commandments. For length of days, long life, and peace shall they add to thee. Let not mercy and truth forsake thee. Bind them about thy neck, write them upon the table of thine heart. So shalt thou find favor and good understanding in the sight of God and man. Trust in the Lord with all thine heart, and lean not unto thine own understandings. In all thy ways acknowledge Him, and He shall direct thy path. Be not wise in thine own eyes. Fear the Lord and depart from evil. We have gotten to become a generation that's a little bit courageous in ourselves, and we no longer fear God. We no longer look at the commandments. We no longer look at the law. Yes, Jesus Christ came so we wouldn't have to live by the law because none of us would make it. Okay, but we also need to look back and reference it to go back to the beginning of this when it says, for length of days, long life and peace shall then add to thee. Okay, we talked about Jesus on his whenever he was doing his work down here, whenever he was out fulfilling his duty, as you might say, as he was just walking about. They constantly tried to get him, but his time had not come. Listen, they looked for a way to nail him to that cross early and often, but they couldn't find a fault in the man. He had no faults. So eventually they found these fake charges pretty much, and that did it. Listen, we are to still abide by the commandments. We are still to do what it says in the Old Testament. Sometimes we just take that and we throw it out and we say, let's live our life because we have an advocate with Jesus. Yes, we do, but do not abuse it. Call upon him. Listen, but read the whole Bible. Front to back, it works together. It doesn't work against each other. It's not like part one sequel. No, it's all together. There's a reason that the prophets reference so much in the New Testament. And if you look at the end of the New Testament, it references back. Okay, it goes here to here, here to here, here to here. We have taken it, and it's like we got to get out of jail free card anytime we want it because Jesus died on the cross for us. Yes, my sins were forgiven. But whenever he stopped the stoning, he said, "He that have no sin cast the first stone." Then went on to say, go and sin no more. It is not his will that we sin. He wants us to try to do what the commandments and what the law says, and he wants us to go and do these things. But we're like, he's got me if I do mess up. He does, but don't abuse it. He's given us an inch, but we want to run a mile. Stay plugged in times when people want you to go and you want to react. And you just want to just go. Your testimony earlier hit the nail on the head for me. We don't want to react. We want to respond.
Yeah.
If you're quick to anger and you try to go off on somebody or you try to correct somebody, you're going to come off a little bit brash. You're going to come off a little bit upset. It doesn't. Think back to the Sermon on the Mount. Jesus didn't go into the mountains to get away from the people. He went to get a higher vantage point so he could hear, more people could hear him. Enemies are going to rise up against you. It's not your way you're going to get through them. It's not your way that you're going to get them on your side. It's through him. These enemies has rose. Think back to David and Goliath. All right, he had 5 stones. He only used 1, but he had them for the 4 brothers that were standing around. The 4 brothers realized it was probably a bad decision.
Yeah.
Okay, David had to go in. He had to go fight. He had to go and take care of a giant. Okay? Right now, we're not in a spot where we have to do that. But we go into enemies' camps every single day. Enemies come into our camp. All right? We can't go, and I made this reference this morning. As a farmer, as somebody that wants to try to fix things quickly, you can do a lot with duct tape and zip ties. In 2024, you cannot have your walls to your camp held together with duct tape and zip ties. It's going to crumble. The enemy's going to penetrate it. The fiery darts are going to hit you. Spend some time. Get your foundation strong. I have never fixed a problem by worrying. And that's what I told these other churches is they constantly brought up the word fear. All right, one of them brought up their age even. And I'm like, what do you mean? Because I haven't got to that part of my life yet. And they said, age. It's a stumbling block for us. I said, explain it to me. I said, I can't do what I used to do. I can't do all these things. I'm more reliant on other people. But on the same time, age comes with wisdom. So there's a lot more wisdom there. And as they've lived their life and as they've gone, and remember, there's a lot smarter than I am. She's seen more things. She's overcame more things. She's been more spiritual battles than I am. It is my job to then, we're going to read it in a second, to listen to the elders and take from them. Absolutely. But at the same time, Ramona is closer today. Granted, tragedy happens. I get that. But looking past tragedy for one moment, Ramona is closer to meeting God than what I am. What a glory statement you can make then. She has went through hell on earth. This is the closest to hell she'll ever be. She's been here for 85 years now. Didn't say 84. 85 years. She has seen a lot, but she is close to her reward. We want her around for another 85. But she has lived a life that is giving God glory, that has constantly pointed people to Him. Now, there's a point in your life where you're probably living for Ramona and not living for God. We all have been there. That's why our testimonies are so important. All right, I can look at her and I can see her beat on this piano. Listen, I don't care if it's right note, wrong note, change gears 3 times. I don't care. It's a joyful noise. And I have been up here and I've said, I will never get up here and sing. Listen, you guys, I might sound terrible, but it's a joyful noise to God's ears. Whenever you lift Him up and you praise His word like it told us right here, that is important. Be not wise in thine own eyes. Fear the Lord and depart from evil. There's going to be times where you have to kind of pick your battles and walk away. You can't let the evil get your mind and get you out of the spirit so much that you make bad decisions or push people farther. We have got to go and have an open mind and lean into what God would tell us. If there's a person in your path and you continue to pass them, it's Cheryl, you talked about being a Piggly Wiggly. That woman needed somebody to pray for. Yep. And you were that person. Yep. She reached out to you. She said, she's seen a light inside you and said, this is the person that came and popped across my path. I think back to whenever they told Bartimaeus to be quiet. He said, no, I will not. This is my day, and this is a big deal to me. Yep. And he started screaming. Led him to being able to see again. There's a lot of people out there that have the way of the world that has been poured into them. They don't know what church is about. They don't know that there is joy in the house of the Lord. They don't know that love flows through places like this. They don't know that whenever they come in here and they start worshiping, that things start happening, that it's unexplainable, that tingles start happening, that cold chills start happening for no reason. They don't understand the goodness of God. But we want to take it and we want to try to just force feed it to them in a worldly manner. Dean Ash is one of the greatest preachers as far as preaching grace of anybody I've ever heard. He was in the hospital down there whenever he had a situation. We went and we were talking with him. And I just sat there and I said, Dean, we were talking about different things. And he said, I'm going to tell you a story. He said, whenever I was preaching, he said, he went and he said, I think he was up at Pine Twist. But he said that a minister came up to him and he said, man, I really let him have it. They probably won't ask me back. And he said he thought about it. He's like, how's that gonna win anybody over? Listen, sin is sin. And if you live a life of sin, you're going to hell. That's facts. We have a God in heaven that gives you every opportunity to choose the other way. So as harsh as one is, the grace and mercy, He wants you with Him. He doesn't want anybody to go there. That's right. But once again, people make decisions. So as he said that, it hit home with me that, we can't go into enemies' camps and just start road punching people. Would love to. Make us feel better. But we've got to make that rapport. We've got to have that relationship. We've got to build. We've got to build a little bit. Right. And then when the season comes and it's time to reap what we sow, then that's when it's done happening. We've seen people in this church multiple times. Every eye bowed, every head closed, or every head bowed, every eye closed. And people would raise their hands and say they're not saved. And they would leave here. Yep. But time and time again, as time went on, and God continued, the exposure to the sun kept happening. And they seen differences, and they seen a light inside of us. The people weren't hiding it. It was burning brighter, and they seen family members come to God, and they seen things start happening. That's when God was able to then say, come on home. Yep. It wasn't when the prodigal son had a ton of money and a riotous life. It wasn't when he was living that he realized he needed that. It was when everything was exhausted. 2022 is hard. People are probably across the board in more debt now than they've been in their lives. You look at things, you look at prices, they're high. Things are getting hard. People are exhausting all options daily, looking for an answer, looking for something. The children of God still have what they need. We are still here in a good spot. There has been times in our life where we didn't know where we were going to pay for things in our married life. We got married young. We didn't have all the things figured out. We weren't as smart as we thought we were. But we didn't know where money was going to come from. But never once was there not a way. Was there never not once a path created by God for us? Every single time he said, follow me, lean on me. Constantly lean on. When you're strong, you should be leaning. When you're weak, lean on it. It's not a need, want relationship. There's times that Anna Lee will come being real sweet to me. Usually when we're in the toy aisle and she needs something. But Dad, I was so good. Well, Anna, what about all the times that we had to tell you to do this or do that? Or there's toys on my floor where you didn't pick up earlier. Why would I buy you another one? But in that moment, she felt sweet. She said, but none of that matters, Dad. None of that matters that I haven't picked up my Bible in a while. None of that matters that I haven't prayed in a while. I haven't praised you in a while. None of that matters, Dad. Just give me my next thing. That's what we do as Christians. Anna Lee does it to me. Kimberly more so than Anna. But that's what we do as Christians. There's seasons where we're like, got it, Dad. Love you. And we're going down. But in those times, we're not in the path, we're not in the mindset that he'd have us be. We go back to those old paths. When you brush hog a path, what happens? It grows back. And oftentimes, thicker.
Yeah.
You get a place timbered, if you don't plant some grass seed, buddy, you've got you some briars coming. But we'll be on a good path for so long, leaning on God. We're just step for step with him. It's going great. And then that scale starts to flip the other way. And we take one step and we're like, that was a really fun path. And we'll stop. And usually where it branches off, it's not bad. But as you go farther, you run into more vines. You run into more thorns. You run into more pain than if you had just stayed on the path that he set you. That's what we got to do, is lean on his understanding and stay on his path. First Peter talks about a roaring lion walking about. Let me just go ahead and tell you. Grab your mirror out of wherever you got a mirror and look in the mirror. And that is that is one of the most roaring lions that's in your life, is looking you back in the face. That carnal mind, the things that you think you need, the things that you think you want, the things that are just so important to you, trip you. Whenever we look at God and we say, God, I want to serve you. I want to be what you would have me to be. And we do that, you will then start to feel happy. Whenever I start getting angry and things start rubbing me the wrong way, it's because I haven't been with God lately. I've distanced myself and I've been too busy to then get back and say, God, where are we going next? God, help me finish this one so we can go somewhere. I'm not saying be a checklist society. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is be in step, be in tune with God, and you'll be less grumpy. You'll be less stressed. Listen, we were worshiped here earlier, and I thank God for the worship that comes from this place. I got to sit back there and just full grin on it. Listen, I praise God a lot, but I've never had a worship session like that. I could let them sing until tomorrow and I wouldn't have known any better. I shut my eyes and I just prayed with that little girl.
Yep.
Just blocked everything else out. I didn't care. The place could have been on fire and I wouldn't have known. Hope somebody would have grabbed me. But I was just in my own world. That's what it's about. I love Abby to death. But there's times that I just need God. I need to just plug in with him. Listen, every generator, you have to put gas in, or you have to pay the natural gas bill, or it's going to get shut off. If you don't put gas, if you don't pour something into your and God's relationship, it's not one-sided. The college coach said basketball is like a girlfriend. If you don't spend any time with it, it goes away. You're not as good. Listen, it's the same thing. Life gets harder when you don't spend time with God. You're kidding yourself if you don't think that. My challenge for everybody here, I'm going to wrap it up, but my challenge is whenever things get hard, whenever things are getting tough, remember to go back to God first. In that split second, what you have planted inside of you, what is in your heart, will come out of your mouth in tough times. What's buried down in there and you don't even know is down in there, ask Achan. God will find you out. It will come out at some point. There's so many times I want to just tell people to just stop. And how could you be so ignorant? But I have to think back. There was times I was ignorant. There was times my father-in-law looked me in the eyes and knew I wasn't where I needed to be. And he could have said, boy, if you want to marry my daughter, you figure it out right now. He could have been that honest with me. But he didn't. He did what God would have him to do. He kept pouring love. He kept just making sure that he would drop God or he would drop scripture. He would do this or do that. Sing songs in his chair even when he didn't think we were listening. And just the little things. But it was planting seeds. You don't plant today and harvest tomorrow. You don't do that. You plant today and you expect when the time comes, when there's been exposure from the sun. That's what we got to do. And we got to stop planting one seed. And we got to start casting things. You want to please man now? Listen, we don't know what's going to happen. We are literally living in I feel as if borrowed time.
Day by day.
I feel like borrowed time is a safe statement. I feel like after God washed everything out after Noah, he thought, man, these people can't screw it up again. Well, lo and behold, look where we are.
Here we are.
Here we are.
Yep.
I'm an educator. You look at things, it goes in circles. What's good today will not be good next year. All the professional development you learn today won't be good next year. You got to go learn something else. It's the same world we live in. People are going to battle people. There's going to become time. There's going to until his will says, we're done here. Go get them. And in that moment, you don't have time to get ready. We look at things as there's not consequences sometimes. We're almost an untouchable society at times because we live in America, because we do things the right way. Wednesday, I looked at things and I was like, God, I need you because this is ignorant. This is something that's going to hurt me. All right. And he showed up. But I don't think it's wise for me to do that 10 times in 10 days, Ramona, because it's one of those things that at some point my decisions have consequences.
Yeah.
We can show people the way. We can lead people there. But they've got to believe. They've got to commit themselves. I encourage you to not put negative spins or not twist words, but just truly get in step with God every day. Every day is a battle. Every day you walk out your door, or the minute your feet hit the floor, the enemy's trying to figure out a way to take you out. And understand, we've heard it in here 1,000 times, the counterfeit. There's a counterfeit to everything. And even the places you least expect it. I referenced this morning and I'm done. The last story. I paid my taxes, my property taxes at the Work County Courthouse. And I knew I had to pay them because I needed a little sticker for my license plate because I just bought a new truck and I needed them to transfer over. Yeah. So I did that, and it was the same time as my driver's license renewal was up. So I bought the sticker from the courthouse. Then I needed to go to the DMV in Spencer. So I paid in cash at the Work County Courthouse. Took the change that they had given me, stuck it straight in my pocket, went straight to the Spencer DMV. One state building. You go to a DMV, and as I walk in and I hand them the cash, she's counting it, and she takes a little pen. I said, oh, that just came from the Work County Courthouse. You shouldn't have to check that. They should have already checked it. She gets to a $20 bill. Fake. I left the Worth County Courthouse, went to the DMV. All right, once again, shouldn't happen. Should not happen. And I look at that woman. I'm terrified. She looked at me. She said, "You got this from the courthouse?"
I'm a preacher.
I said, "You don't have to believe me, but it came from the courthouse."
Yeah.
So I'm sure there's camera footage somewhere. Like, I'm starting to sweat because I literally just gave a federal building a counterfeit 20.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Don't end well. So I'm like, "Can I have that back?" Like, I don't know what else to say. I said, "Can I have it back?" Luckily, I got the dollar back. I said, "I'll take it straight to the courthouse when I leave here. I promise." And so I did. I took it back to the courthouse. I was petrified. That was a situation that could have led to some serious criminal issues for me. Luckily, I got out of it. But it looked like that wasn't on my bingo card.
Yeah.
It was not anywhere that I thought would happen, because you know what? I left one building that was supposed to take care of people to another building, and it went back. There's people in your life, there's things in your life that look good. Adam and Eve found that out. Looked real good. Samson found it out. Woman he thought he loved, shaved him bald, took all strength.
Yeah.
There's things that trip us up. And oftentimes, if you look at it, it's in our will and not God's will where we get tripped up. God will tell you. God will show you the signs. He'll say, "Steer clear here, go here." But we got to be in step with Him and not on our own. And in today's society, I feel like even the church is out battling battles through their own mental capacity instead of what would God have us do. Constant prayer. Constant prayer. Worrying ain't going to change a thing. It's going to make you feel worse. If anything, the enemy's going to work in your head more. Fear is straight from the enemy. Worry straight from the enemy. Anxiety from the enemy. But the God that can tell the storm to settle is the same God that we serve today.
Amen.
He's never changed. Don't put limitations on him. He's on your side. Live your life for Him. Stay in tune with what He'd have you do. Continue to tell the line, no matter how tired you get, to get in the cage and get behind you. And you're going to live a happier life, a more less stressed life. And it might mean changing your circle. It might mean changing your routine. It might cost you 20 minutes of sleep in the morning to wake up and read before you go to work. But we're talking about an eternity for yourself, an eternity for the people you come in contact with this week. What's 20 minutes on an alarm clock? So I'm going to have somebody sing here. We'll pray, but I feel now more than ever the church needs to do what Jesus would do. We often say, what WWJD, what would Jesus do? He goes to the lost. He goes to the sinners. He loves them. He goes out and he tells people about what they've done and how they've fallen short. But there's a way. We've got people that we have to, unfortunately, respect. Not really respect, but we have to live with. We have to pray for. I don't always agree with all the lawmakers. I don't agree with all the politicians. But I got to pray for them. I don't agree with the people that have a lot of money that back every bad decision that they make. I got to pray for them. Doesn't mean I have to invite them over for dinner. Somewhere along the line, we have gotten to the point where if I wouldn't invite them into my house, I can't pray for you. I'll pray for you, but I might shield you from my kids. That's where we're at. If not, there's a lot of people in this Bible that would have never made it. The thief on the cross would have never found a way in. If Jesus wouldn't have looked at him and said, or if he wouldn't have looked over and said, "This man has done no wrong. It's us that should be here, not him." He made a decision that day. At the moment where he probably only had a few minutes, hours to live, made a decision to stay in paradise forever. Look at life through a scope that Jesus would.
Good job, buddy.